Your Iowa Hawkeyes fall on the road to the Fighting Illini in Champaign, 95-85. The Iowa men now with 3 games to go in the regular season. And I think most of us can agree if they want to make the NCAA tournament without winning the Big Ten tournament, got to win these last 3, which includes a road win against Northwestern and a rematch win at home against Illinois. Will not be easy. And frankly, the Penn State team that's coming to town on Tuesday, that will not be an easy game. So lots to get to here over the next 45 minutes to an hour, or you're welcome to call in. We do not have Coach Close today. We do have Mr. Tom Kakert of HawkeyeReport.com, who's set to be stopping by, I believe, after Fran McCaffrey's press conference. So stay tuned for Tom and his insight. I want to cover a few things before we get to our callers. Our phone line is open. I'll also throw the StreamYard link up in the live chat. Very simple to call in via StreamYard. You can also call the phone line. It's 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601. And the live or the StreamYard link is also found in the description of this stream. So a couple things. Again, final score in Champaign, 95-85. I'll run through a few storylines before we dig into this deeper. Iowa did have a 7-point lead. In fact, led the majority of this game. I think. I'm going to look at that official score. Before I say that, I want to look at the official box score. It just came in as I was launching this show. It just came in, official box score from Iowa. I can tell you this, that Iowa led much of that second half and had a 7-point lead at one point in that second half and gave up a run, and Illinois worked their way right back into it and worked right back into the lead. And you expect teams, especially at home, especially some of the better teams in the conference and in the country, to make runs, right? Basketball is a game of runs, so that's not surprising. Iowa's field goal percentage certainly dropped in that second half, but I thought they were running good offense early. Even though some shots weren't going down, defensively, they were better at the start of that second half. not as good second half of the second half, if that makes sense. Really, where this game was lost, if you look at the box score, was, as always, against Illinois. You get beat on the glass. That hurts significantly. And I'm looking specifically at offensive rebounds. Iowa actually ended up with more offensive rebounds than I would have guessed. They ended up with 11. But the 14 offensive boards for Illinois, a lot of those were putbacks. I think of one specifically off of a free throw miss where you have Terrence Shannon slipping a guy who's supposed to be boxing out and getting a putback. That's not a result of size. That's a result of hustle and will and determination. So those are the things you go back on tape. I get it. Illinois is long. We'll get to their length and the challenges that they pose in a minute. But too many offensive rebounds for Illinois. You look down at turnovers. Iowa, I thought, took care of the ball really well in that first half, but ended up with 11 turnovers on the road, which I think you can live with on the road. My guess is, let me look at the official second half numbers. So in the first half, Iowa ended up with they ended up with 6 turnovers. That's actually more than I thought. So they ended up with 5 in the second half, 6 in the first. So more balanced than I would have expected as I'm looking at the official box score. And again, I think you can live with 11 on the road. Iowa, so efficient offensively in that first half. Frankly, I'm surprised to see that number, 6 turnovers for Iowa in that first half. Just so efficient and shot the ball so well. You look at their first half field goal percentage, 62%. And yet they trailed. 62% from the field on the road in one of the tougher environments in the Big Ten. And yet Iowa trailed at halftime. That should tell you all you need to know. What's crazy about it is Illinois shot under 50% in the first half. But the disparity on the glass was significant. As I mentioned earlier, 8-3 offensive boards in favor of the Illini in that first half. And again, a lot of lead changes, a lot of back and forth, a lot of runs. Iowa had a scoring run of 9 in that first half. Illinois had a scoring run of 7. And we went back and forth. It was 44-43 at halftime. And then again in that second half, Iowa giving up 51 points. You know, look, I had my good friend Kyle, who we have on the show occasionally. He was not able to watch the game live. He was listening to it, and he sent me a couple of messages after the game. And I think Kyle's okay with me taking a shot at him. I didn't agree with his take because all he said to me was, it sounds like Tony Perkins really cost him down the stretch. He turned the ball over 3 times late, was 0 for 2 from the field. And while that is true, the lead was lost at that point. Not that they were out of the game, but the lead had been blown at that point. And that really doesn't account for the poor half-court defense, the poor offensive rebounding efforts, and Tony Perkins had 0 turnovers prior to that final flurry. And I know some people are going to say I'm trying to defend a guy that I have a lot of respect for. No, he absolutely coughed up the ball at the wrong time, and that hurt them. But again, 95. You can't give up 95 on the road at Illinois and expect to win. Now, Illinois scores a lot of points. We know that. They're geared offensively just like Iowa is, but 51 points, and Iowa gave up 50% from the field in that second half. Their field goal percentage dipped way down from in the 60s in the first half to in the 30s, 35% in that second half. 12 of 34, just 1 3-pointer made. Did shoot really well from the free throw line, which kind of helped Iowa have a chance there late. But, boy, a lot of fouls called in that second half and a lot of points scored. And in the end, Illinois' bench produced a lot more than Iowa's. Again, they produced on the glass, got inside, got easy buckets. They scored 95 to Iowa's 85, and that's the story of the game. As it relates to the NCAA tournament here in a couple of weeks, as I said at the outset, they got to win 3 straight here. You got to win on Tuesday at home against Penn State, and you've got to beat Northwestern on the road. I think if you don't get another quad 1 road win, I think it's going to be hard to get in without making a significant run, probably winning that Big Ten tournament. We can talk about that. We got a couple of people waiting to chat before we get to our people on the Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Do want to thank RTI Threads. I've been promoting their Iowa Baseball and Swarm partnership. Check out the newly launched website as the Iowa baseball season is underway. Visit www.iowabaseballswarm.com and check out the team NIL apparel. Again, that's iowabaseballswarm.com. Also want to thank Iowa Smokehouse. You see their ad each and every night here on the show, whether you're talking about their meat sticks, their jerky, their steak bites, their barbecue sauces, ketchups, salsas, everything's awesome. You'll never need to look anywhere else for game day or any day to feed you and your family throughout the afternoon. Check out iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order, and you will still get free shipping with every $50 order. That's iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. All right, let's see here. Kyle, our guy Kyle just reached out to me and said, I click on the show in the first 10 seconds I hear is, I think Kyle would be okay with me taking a shot at him. Yes, absolutely. Well-timed, well-orchestrated. Let's go to our first caller, Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Tony was here bright and early. Tony, you watched the end part of the game while you were logged into the StreamYard. I appreciate you being ready early.
I actually logged into the StreamYard at halftime when you posted the link.
Well, you are devoted. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm very lucky. I'm actually a bachelor this weekend. My wife and my daughter are away, so I'm just sitting watching basketball. You know, I had 3 questions ready for Coach, and then you just devastate me and say no coach.
Sorry.
So I've got
Coach is somewhere where he absolutely could not be on right now. He's not home, so let's just say that he's traveling, and no way for him to get here today. But Tony,
I'll pull an audible. And I got a few other things. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I just wanted to know what you thought of this game. Do you consider a 7-point lead in the second half and then, allowing Illinois to win by 10? Is that a collapse?
Yeah.
You think that's a collapse? You think it's when you're up by 7 against?
I think because we've shown in the last 2 games that we thought we could overcome that. Did I expect them to win? I'm saying overcome that, meaning we have set before these last 2 games, we kind of set the bar as, okay, we get that early lead and then we give it up and collapse.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is I get what you're saying. Yeah. And Iowa has overcome that these last 2 games. And I think when you do it repetitively, then you can start seeing trends there. But I don't know that being up 7 on the road in a very high-scoring game, high-volume game, is a collapse. It's not like they were up 7.
Maybe
not like they were up 7 with under a minute to go, like Illinois was to Penn State the other night. So
maybe me agreeing with it being a collapse might be poor choice of me agreeing with that. I might say a game we should have won, not maybe necessarily a collapse. But I mean, that could just be arguing the wording there. Did you?
They couldn't get stops. So it's like you're up by 7, but you can't get stops. So it's like, and that's part of the reason why Iowa has a propensity to lose leads and why they were also able to overcome a 20-point deficit to Minnesota. I mean, it's like you go through a drought, you lose a lead, or you go on a streak, you're going to potentially climb your way back into a game. It's just no game is safe either direction when Iowa's involved.
At the 13:34 point in the second half, I had it written down. I was like, okay, Iowa's in the bonus. I want to keep track of how many times do they settle for jump shots versus driving the lane.
Okay.
They actually drove the lane about 75% of the time and tried to draw fouls. It just, Illinois did the same thing because they got in the bonus as well, and they just executed better.
And did you think the officiating was okay in that second half?
It was poor both ways.
Okay.
I mean, it is what I don't think it was lopsided more towards one side or the other, but
the only thing I would say about I don't think the officiating was the story of the game by any means.
No.
That was at first. But let me also say that Coleman Hawkins gets the benefit of the doubt way too much. And I understand, like Cricky was totally overmatched. That was one of my early comments tonight. Like from the get-go, I was disappointed in Iowa even attempting to have Cricky guard Hawkins in the man-to-man. Like, to me, you got to be smarter than that at the outset. You don't even allow that one-on-one matchup to transpire. Cricky got owned. I mean, Hawkins was in double figures in like the first 3 minutes of the game. And it was done. Like, here's the thing about Krikke. Let me say this about Ben Krikke, because I am really impressed by Ben's effort, and he's gotten really more aggressive on the glass. Only had 5 tonight, but he's been more aggressive on the glass these last couple games, and he's been more effective offensively, similar to what he was showing in the non-conference. And I think that's normal when you're transitioning from Missouri Valley to Big Ten play. He is playing big minutes and giving them really solid minutes, especially on offense, but he really struggles defensively versus strength and versus athleticism. Those two things just kill him. And it's like, that's one of those things, like, it's not a matter of lack of effort. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of that. He is just slow, and he struggles with strength.
I think something that you can see and people might be able to realize from this is effort is something that can be turned on and off. And you can see that he has effort on the glass, but you cannot just change not knowing how to play defense. It takes a lot more than just flipping a switch by saying, okay, I didn't know how to play defense. Now I know how to play defense.
Part of that, I believe, I thoroughly believe as well, Tony, part of that is what how the coaches are utilizing you and what position they're putting you in. Because I've used the illustration. I know it's kind of apples to oranges, but go back to a Bo Ryan coach team. If Ben Krikke was on that team, he would not be an excellent defender, but he would at least hold his own a lot better than he does in Iowa. Why? Because he'd be put in a better position to succeed. Fundamentals would be impressed that much more in spite of his athleticism, or lack thereof, I should say. But he doesn't have, as we've talked about, the difference between Tony Perkins and a lot of other Iowa players. He doesn't have the athleticism to account for poor fundamentals and lack of teaching. You know, that's what I would say about Ben Krikke. But I love his effort.
Now, you mentioned Bo Ryan, and I have the Virginia game on here. So Tony Bennett, Bo Ryan, disciple of each other, how you want to say it. It took them until 3 minutes and 3 seconds left in the first half to break double digits.
Yeah, they're
now I know
ugly to watch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is Iowa's ugly on the defensive end, but it can be kind of fun to watch the offense. How much fun? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Is Virginia has won a national championship and been to Final Fours. So there's the difference. And if Iowa was winning this way, kind of like the women going to the national title last year, are there that many people out there, maybe right now because they're coming off a double-digit loss at Indiana, but not many Iowa women's basketball fans complain about the defense. Why? Because it doesn't really matter. Their offense is good enough to overcome it. And that's what Virginia is, the opposite way. The Virginia men are just so good defensively. And you could argue part of that is not just because they're that much better off defensively than Iowa is offensively, but the old adage that defense wins championships, and you got to be able to play defense down the stretch in March. And I think that's relevant. It just seems like, and I don't have numbers to back this up, but it seems like once you hit the NCAA tournament specifically, there are less and less games like this. There's not that many shootouts, 95, 80. Like a lot of games are in the 60s, maybe 70s. So you got to be able to dig deep. I think about Iowa's game against Richmond a couple of years ago. Low scoring affair. The shots disappeared, and Iowa didn't have an answer for it.
But one thing I will say is this year's Iowa team, while they're not currently in the position to make the tournament, I feel they're better geared for success in the tournament. And what I mean by that is in the past years, it seems like we've relied on the three way too much, where this year's team does not rely on that 3-point shot. So I think if, and it's a big if, they get in the tournament, they could possibly have a little more success than more talented teams in the past.
I agree. I think the least geared teams in some respects for tournament play are those high-octane 3-point dependent teams that don't play defense. And that's been Iowa. I agree with you in that they're more equipped. I think they've got better guard play with Tony Perkins, even though I know some people don't think he's playing great. He's as good of a I think NCAA tournament guard as we've seen. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion about Tony Perkins playing both ends that we've seen under Fran. But the other aspect of this is I will still not believe that I was really geared well for the tournament until they play better defense. Like, how could you possibly, when you look at the data for teams that make it into the second weekend or the third weekend, it's like, what percentage of those teams play as bad a defense as Iowa by the numbers? Very
not many. I'm just saying what I was meaning is I still agree we won't make a big run, but I think we would be better suited to maybe have just a smidge more success because it's just not hot and cold from the 3-point line.
Correct. I agree. Absolutely agree. And they're not shooting a bunch of threes.
No, they're not.
They don't have to.
They're not.
Now,
The other,
they rely on the mid range a lot.
Yes, which is not great either analytics wise, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, it's and you know, having a guy like Owen Freeman down low is helpful because they really, even with Philip Verbracha, he was not a post scorer like Owen is. Now Owen struggled. I thought Owen struggled as much as he has all year tonight. I thought his you see him, you don't typically see him shoot less than 50%. He was 2 of 5 from the field, missed a couple of gimmies. 8 points, only had, let's see here, I'm looking for personal fouls for Owen Freeman.
He didn't have that many. I don't think he had 0. He had 0 in the first half, right?
Owen Freeman had 3 personal fouls.
Okay.
And I think the other part I was a little bit surprised at is we saw only 6.5 minutes for Ladji Dembele.
He didn't play bad today. I don't think.
He only played 6.5 minutes, and I thought, man, Patrick struggled again.
Yeah.
we can go on all these different tangents. Yeah. I want to ask you, Tony. We do have Doug waiting on hold, but we're not in any rush here because we don't have Coach. We've got one caller. I think it's Lemansky on the phone line. So hang tight, Lemansky, if you're listening. But let me ask you this, Tony. And this is a note I have in my memo, my phone. One that I wanted to ask you guys, the callers. Who do you think is, and I don't have the data to back this up, but who do you think is responsible for the most number of wasted possessions for Iowa offensively?
Patrick McCaffrey.
100%. 100%.
It's like recency bias will tell people maybe not because he's had a few good, decent games, but I mean the past game or two, so recency bias might kick in and people might not give that answer. But that's the answer.
And I'm not even talking about he has good games, and even when he plays well, he's still per number of possessions he's on the floor, he's responsible for more wasted possessions than anyone else.
Yeah, I mean a prime and you probably put that note encapsulated when he was literally throwing the ball with under 2 minutes left or whatever it was. He had that turnover and then just threw the ball away. You know what I'm talking? Is that probably where you wrote the note and looked it up, or?
I think it was that, or one of his drives where he's just throwing up a unbelievably contested shot that goes in once in a while, but it's that's not a good shot. And by the way, as great as Peyton Sandfort has been for Iowa, he also is responsible for some wasted possessions because of bad shots.
Yeah,
I mean, Iowa's got guys that take bad shots, and we've talked about that. But Patrick,
or just dump turnovers. Just low basketball. You've got to know, because that was an 8-point game, I believe, when he intercepted that pass. We have the chance to cut it to 5, and it's under a minute and a half or something like that. Or 5 with a 3 or 6 with a 2. Either way, you can cut it to a 2-possession game, and then you're just rushing, throwing it where? I have no idea where he was throwing that ball. I just had one point, and then I'll let you go so you can get to the other people. I think you said if we don't win out, you think we need to win the Big Ten tournament. What I will say is, if we do go 2-1, we should most likely be a 7 seed, which will get us a second game against either Illinois or Wisconsin.
And you might be able to get in. You might be able to
get when that's 2 games. Yep. If you go 2-1 and win 2, I think you need to win 2 in the Big Ten tournament to get another quad 1 win. Beat the 10 seed. And as the 7 seed, beat the 2 seed. So if you beat the 2 seed, it'll be another quad 1 neutral game.
Yeah, but at Northwestern, if they win at Northwestern, that's a quad.
Yeah.
And Minnesota is now a quad 1 win. That game on the road. So what I may disagree slightly with you. I'm no bracketologist, but I wonder if they get. Let me answer this next call and put them on hold. We're going to put you on hold, caller. If they get this next win against Penn State, beat Northwestern, and somehow, I shouldn't say somehow because they played Illinois close. They beat Illinois at home.
They're in. I think they're in no matter what.
You think that they can go, wait a minute, you think they can go 2-1 and then only
3-0. You said they win the next 3. If they win the next 3, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Here's where I stand, Tony.
Okay.
They have to. To me, they have to go 3-0.
Okay.
To make the tournament without winning the Big Ten tournament.
Okay.
You think they can go 2-1 with 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament as a 7 seed, to where they're only playing Thursday and Friday. We win Thursday, Friday. You can lose in the semis, and they're still in. I don't agree with that, but we'll see.
I think it depends who you lose to in the semis. If you're the 7-10 and you win as a 7, and then you beat the 2 seed, and you lose to opposite of Wisconsin, Illinois, who I'm assuming those two are going to be the 2 and 3 seeds as an assumption. If you win one and then lose the other, I think those 2 wins plus 2 more in the regular season would get you in.
Here's the other problem. If you're a 7-10 or 8-9, playing
the first game means nothing.
Playing Purdue or Illinois, I don't want that matchup. Now, they got to play Illinois at home, but at least you got a shot at home. Do you think there's a better – here's my question. Do you think there's a better chance that they win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament, which would include a win potentially over a top 2 seeded Big Ten team on a neutral court? Or is there a better chance that they win against Penn State at home, knock off Northwestern on the road, and win against Illinois at home? I think there's a better chance they go 3-0.
Scenario number 2. You're right. Yeah. Scenario number 2.
So that's why, like I say, Penn State's a hot team right now. In my opinion, tomorrow or Tuesday is a must-win.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree. I think there's multiple paths, even if they lose one more regular season game outside of winning the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, you and I disagree on that, but somebody's going to be right and somebody's going to be wrong. Hopefully, we won't have to find that out, because hopefully
if they win the next 3.
Yeah. But if they go 3-0, Tony, for the record, I think if they go 3-0, they still have to win in the Big Ten tournament. I don't think they're just in. I think you still got to win that first game of the Big Ten tournament.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that. 3-0 and win 1. So I think it's 3-0 and win 1, or 2-1 and win 2. So some possible 4 more wins will get you in.
Let's add.
Doug, no, go ahead.
Whatever.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're bracketologists. Don't you know that, Doug?
All I can say is, you guys, one thing you're not doing, there's other leagues. There's other teams. Yeah. So,
but how many of them?
What's that got to do with anything?
Doug, I know you follow this too, but how many of the other teams that are on the bubble have as many chances as we do? How many of them have 2 more quad 1 chances? Not many.
I don't know.
Not many, I'll tell you that much.
This was a quad 1 chance. This would have been a quad 1 game win.
But we have 2 more before the tournament. Before the Big Ten tournament, we have 2 more guaranteed.
Remember, real quick, Mike DeCourcy has Iowa in his first 4 out. Lunardi's got him like 6 or 7 spots out. So that's a decent number of teams to climb if you're not getting another quad 1 victory. Well, I guess Illinois at home would be a quad 1 victory.
And Northwestern on the road is a quad 1 as well.
Yeah, guaranteed. So 2 more quad 1 victories, you can climb that ladder. I don't know that you can do it at 2-1.
Yes. But I guess what I'm saying is, when I say that if they lose 1 more in the regular season and get 2 more in the Big Ten tournament, that second Big Ten tournament game will be a quad 1 game.
Correct.
So that would get you to the path of 2 quad 1 victories.
Yeah.
I would much rather, if there's a seed in the Big Ten tournament, I would much rather not play Purdue or Illinois. So I don't know if the 6th seed would be the best seed, or because I just don't want to play those. I want to play those teams as further out as possible. Because if you get some more wins, the wins help, losses hurt. So,
well, I think we need to be very. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but they need to be very concerned about Tuesday.
Yes.
Go back and watch how they lost that game against Penn State. They got pushed around, physically beat. Like, those are the games where Iowa typically struggles. They lost on the road at Penn State. Now Penn State's playing better than they have. They've beaten Illinois and Indiana back-to-back. That's a dangerous game.
Their new coach isn't bad, and they've upset teams, and they've already beat us. I mean, they're not bad. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I think to have a much better shot, you need to go 3-0. Yeah. But conference tournament is still very important. There are still ways, if you make the finals, who knows? You win 3 games, 3-1, Tony. Maybe that's a possibility. If you beat Illinois again, or you beat Wisconsin for a second time. That's not bad, you know.
Can I throw a scenario out there? What if they go 2-1 with wins at home against Illinois, on the road at Northwestern, and then you beat a Nebraska in the Big Ten tournament? Is that enough to get you in? Because you get 2 more quad 1 wins, but you have another bad home loss.
Maybe.
Well, I guess a lot of it depends because that would only be our second bad loss, quote unquote. Because really, right now, our only bad loss on our resume is the home Michigan game. Every other game is not considered a bad loss.
I'll ask Tony, not Cory, this. What's our quad 2 and quad 3 records? I imagine we're undefeated in quad 4. You have to be 6-0 in quad 4.
You give me. I literally have it. So you said quad what?
2 and 3.
Quad 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wins versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses. So we're 9 and 6 versus quad 2 and 3.
I don't know if that's good or not, but we have 0 losses against quad 4, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Which Northwestern has a major one,
and which is better than you can say a year ago when Iowa lost to Illinois. So, Tony, I appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks.
You're our net expert, so we'll keep you around.
Yeah, thanks for answering my question. Yeah, we don't know.
Doug, how are you feeling in the second half when they were up 7?
I was scared, actually. It's just that's Iowa's MO kind of this year, isn't it? You know,
up until these last 2 games. Yep.
I think this is a team that goes on runs, and you just don't know what's going to happen. And they're not I've said this before, and I think you agreed. They're not inconsistent game to game. They're inconsistent every 5 minutes. You don't know what teams will come out from the timeout, you know, and because they came out really doing well, and they turned the ball all over out of a timeout. So, just like I said, I asked the question in the chat about Hawkins having another year. He played really well.
Can I say this, Doug? Coleman Hawkins is one of the most overrated players in this conference. Let me tell you why. You know what who he reminds me of? There's an NBA guy. I don't know how much you follow the NBA. There is an NBA guy who reminds me very much of Coleman Hawkins, and his name is Kristaps Porzingis. Now Porzingis is playing really well right now for New York when he's been healthy, but
they called him a unicorn when he came into the league.
What's that?
He was a unicorn when he came into the league. Yeah.
But here's what I see from Coleman Hawkins. He's not as tall as Porzingis.
No.
But uber athletic. But I don't know. I don't see him really with any post moves. He can knock down the 3, but he dominated a very unathletic 4 in Ben Cricky tonight, who just transferred in from the Missouri Valley. And there's a reason why he was playing at Valpo, right? He's not good enough defensively coming out of high school. And I'm sure that would be the scouting report coming out of high school for him. So I don't know. I think Coleman Hawkins is overrated. He's also a very odd looking guy.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to make fun of him, but that was he doesn't look the part of the guy that would score 30 points against us, but he scored 30 points against us. We need to toughen up. They got physical at times. Even that backup center kind of pushed. I don't remember his name, but he got in there and pushed. Was it
Danger? Yeah,
Danger. He got in there and pushed us around a little bit. I don't know what I think about us not hitting threes. That was one of the things Peyton's supposed to be our best 3-point shooter. I would like to see Dix it's just weird seeing a team live on mid-range jump shots. With Dix and Cricky.
But they have guys who are really good in the mid-range.
Yeah, that's their shot.
In Cricky, Perkins, and Dix, those guys, that's what they do. So I think I give Fran credit offensively. He plays to his guys' strengths, and he's doing that right now. Now, I don't think you can survive many games, especially on the road in the Big Ten. Even though they scored 85, Peyton Sandfort goes 0 from 3.
Yeah.
He's got to make threes. I mean, if he's as good of a 3-point shooter as he's shown, he's got to be able to knock down threes consistently.
Yeah, I mean, they only had 4 threes today, I think, and that's something that could get troubling. I know you said, well, this is a team that relies on threes. Well, at times, a three is it helps change momentum of a game, just changes things. And I just think Josh needs to be more aggressive of taking a shot, especially outside. He plays so well, and I think Josh can be he's already a very good player, but I think he can step it up another level. And if he does in the next 5 games, we might be an NCAA tournament team.
Real quick, Esther, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Linda is our chatter of the day because this is a wonderful comment. So Linda said this is like reading my brain. Linda says, is there anything more annoying than Illinois basketball fans? I had to mute the sound to watch. I don't hardly ever mute the television. In that second half, over half of that second half was muted. By the way, I know people in society today don't oftentimes want to be the voice of an unpopular opinion, but let me be an unpopular opinion for a second. I don't like Robbie Hummel. He annoys the living daylights out of me. Talk. And I get that's his job, but I think he likes to hear himself talk. That's what I would say. He gets very. The other thing is he's working for like 4 different networks. Like you got to hear him on Big Ten Network. He's on ESPN. He's on Peacock. Like, does he?
Yeah.
Is he working for every network on earth? How does that work?
I don't like Bardo. I don't.
Yeah, really... And I can tolerate Bardo more. Sean Morris, I've gotten irritated with Sean Morris more lately.
Verticality.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's just a comment. I have nothing against Robbie Hummel personally. I get tired of listening to him.
I miss the good old days where we would have Larry and Mac, and those were your guys, and you kind of got used to it. I don't know why the Big Ten Network does that. I mean, it used to be that everyone had their own television guys, and you got used to it, But times changed, and streaming and all that other stuff has made things a little bit different. One thing that annoyed me today was people already putting people in the transfer portal and put Iowa on the list. I'm like, we're not even done with the season, so I don't know what. Some Division III guy. There's an article. Again, I have a lot of stuff pops up in my news feed that is just nothing. But it was an article about a Division III guy transferring and that scored 41 points against Minnesota. I looked him up. Anyway, they're like, Iowa's on the short list. I'm like, I don't think Iowa's reached out to anyone during the season for transferring.
Wait a minute. He scored 40 against Minnesota when?
In an exhibition game.
He scored 40 against Minnesota in an exhibition game, and he's transferring?
Yeah, he's a D3 player that wants to play D1. And so
he's really, that seems to be it's a big jump. That is a big jump. I know he had one game against Minnesota. That's a big jump going from D3 to Big Ten basketball.
Well, he only averaged, like, again, I don't remember the guy's name. He only averaged 22 points a game. But I'm like, why are we doing this already? I mean, their season was already done. I guess their season was ending. But
hey, recruiting never stops, Doug. It never stops.
Well, I keep on looking at guys. I was like going, the Indiana State guy that wears the glasses. I don't know what his name is, but I was going, there looks like an Iowa center. He's kind of sick. He's slower guy. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about.
Well, I don't, but you're describing
it. He plays for Indiana State. He's their second leading scorer. He wears glasses. He's a white dude. He's not very fast, but has like Garza type moves down low. I don't know. Somebody might know who I'm talking about. Indiana State's leading the Valley too. So, but
well, here's the problem, and I'll go back to the situation with Tony Perkins. I said it the other day. I think there's a decent chance that Tony comes back, but I also will say this. I can tell you this with pretty good authority. It will likely not be because of NIL. Iowa basketball is still not in a good place as it relates to NIL. So that is part of the reason, a significant part of the reason why they've not been able to do anything in the transfer portal, with the exceptions being Ben Krikke and Philip Rabracha. They are not in a good place right now with transfers, and they're not in a good place with potentially trying to lure a kid back for an extra year like Tony Perkins. Now, Tony may come back anyways. I hope he does. I hope that he weighs the cost rewards of that, like guys did prior to the NIL era. I hope he doesn't go somewhere. I don't think he'll go somewhere else and play one more year. But that's the thing where he's got an extra COVID year, Doug. What if he's got? I mean, there's tampering all over the place. Yep. He's going to probably be at least a second or third team All Big Ten player. I would be surprised if other teams don't come offering him money during the offseason to transfer.
Makes sense. I mean, and you can't necessarily blame him. I don't know. Yeah, you can get Brad back on, but when the Swarm needs more members, it's not like that much money for you guys to, it's $20 a month. I mean, there's things you can give up for $20 a month. I know a lot of people don't want to, but
the problem is, here's the problem though, Doug. When we're talking about the feeling I get and having conversations and having people like Brad Heinrichs on this show and talking with Tom Caker, the feeling that I get is that the funding that they're missing is the big donor funding.
Mm-hmm.
It's sports specific.
Glad not to blame me, the little guy.
No, I mean, I think it's great that the little guys, so to speak, that are donating to the Swarm, good on you. I mean, that everything helps the cause in general.
Yeah.
But unless you've got big dollars and you're donating it to a specific cause, like based on what I've been told, and I could be inaccurate in this, but I would venture to say I was being able to land people like Caleb Brown, being able to land people like Cade McNamara, Nick Jackson. I don't think, like Nick Jackson has went on the record and said, hey, NIL was not my main factor, but I'm sure it was a factor. And a lot of that funding, I get the feeling that a lot of that funding comes from people who are specifically wanting to donate toward the football cause.
Yeah.
So until Fran appeals to those older people that have the money specifically to support Iowa basketball, I don't know that Swarm situation is going to change no matter how many people sign up for $10 a month Swarm packages.
Yes. I'm going to piggyback off that. This was not something I wanted to necessarily talk about, but this is, I think, a very important thing to talk about, is that you can't necessarily blame Fran for the recruiting when it's like this. We've missed out and been second on a lot of people. I follow recruiting. It always seems like we're finishing second on a lot of people. And I think there is Fran fatigue. And I don't know. Somebody said we're in a rebuilding program. We're not going to be good for 2 or 3 years. Well, with the portal and with NIL, we can be good at Final Four team next year. It's just a couple pieces. Look at Iowa State. I mean, I'm not saying if we are a Final Four team next year, but you get Tony to come back and you add a piece here or there. This team's very good.
How are they going to do that without? How are they going to do that without significant NIL support?
That's why I'm telling the listeners, and I'm telling that it's not. We're not as far off of being a really good basketball team as what some people think. Even this year, if we're just missing a player here or there, and we could have gotten those players last year in the portal.
Now, I will say this: I think, and this is just luck of the draw to some extent, but I do feel like.
Yes.
Of that push, and I totally understand it. I don't blame him for that. I do feel like the NIL era kind of came at the wrong time for Iowa basketball because they had an opportunity with the Luka Garza era and the hype they were getting with the Keegan Murray era to use that as a stepping stone to potentially luring some big names out of the portal. But the problem is that era, the Keegan, Luka, and finally getting some NBA success era happened to intercept with the NIL era and the transfer portal era, which were almost simultaneous. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I understand completely. Yeah. And as far as the rest of the season and moving forward, you judge one season by one season. Chris, I like him. The NBA Academy kid. Judge each season by each season. We don't know how much improvement anyone will do. Tony coming back would be a game changer, but there's portal guys would be a game changer. I don't know how much of a factor it would be if we make the NCAA or not as far as the portal, but that would be what, 5 years, 6 technically that we were qualified. So
let me ask you this, Doug, and I don't know the legalities of this. Let me ask you this: if you had if it was within the rules to do this, again, I don't know that it would be, but if someone set up a GoFundMe account for Tony Perkins, please return Tony Perkins, I don't know if that would be a violation for him to accept that money, because I don't know. That's basically paying for play, guy. That's happening, but again, it's not being done through the fundraiser structure. The reason I asked that: how much money do you think the Iowa fan base would give to that? Like, how much money do you think that would generate?
Not as much as you would think.
Not as much as you would think. How much?
I would hope in the 5 figures, but I don't think much more than that. I mean, I think there might be a couple people that would donate some money. I mean, I would, again, I have no idea how much. I think Iowa men's basketball, there's just not that much passion for it anymore. And so I think that would be, he deserves it, and I think we should do something. But that's the same problem with, if we're not giving the Swarm, why would they give to a GoFundMe account, I guess? I mean,
what I'm saying is, when you give to the Swarm, you're donating to the Swarm as a whole. Okay, but there's also a different part of the Swarms where big money people can donate for specific sports. But I'm saying, if Iowa fans felt like they had they knew my money's going to specifically this. The problem is, how do you do that within the confines of what NIL is supposed to be and how collectives are supposed to operate? That's what I'm saying. If people knew this, if you're donating this money and it's going to go to Tony Perkins, and you're only going to lose the money if he comes back. That's my question.
Well, my question would be, why can't a player do a raffle or a fundraiser for themselves too? I don't know how that would be against like.
He couldn't do. I don't think you could say, this is to, if I get X amount of dollars.
Well, I'm just saying in general. I think that would even be more of an NIL thing. You could promote your own charity, your own line. I mean, I know that you talk about RTI threads. I don't know. They all have things like that. I mean, I don't know.
They're not to specific causes like getting a person to come back. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. No, I really do. We would GoFundMe $20,000 and give it to Tony, and Tony comes back. I understand.
Exactly. 20,000.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'll get Frank on the line and I'll ask him, what's it going to take? Write any number on this check. Right.
I don't have enough in the 401k. I someday do want to retire. No offense, Tony. I like you, but I won't retire. I don't think I'm going to put my 401k out for Tony Perkins' return. But I will keep contributing to the Swarm, and I will keep on cheering. We're going to go to the game on Tuesday, I think. And, who knows what the NCAA looks like. Just be happy that they have a winning record. A lot of you thought they were complete garbage, and they're not complete garbage. But don't be too down. Illinois is one of the toughest places for them to play. I mean, those guys are obnoxious. Did you see what Peyton did at the end of the game when he fouled out?
No.
When he sat down, he waited to sit, because they're like, they cheer, see ya when you sit down on your fifth foul. You've heard that chant before.
Yeah. Course.
And he waits until the guy's in his shooting motion at the free throw line to sit down, causing the guy to miss. It was pretty funny.
I didn't see.
Yeah,
I had the TV on mute. Here's what I will say: do you ever feel like student bodies in general, not everybody, because there's obviously a lot of intelligent young people, but student bodies in general, especially the ones that go to some of these games? I'm not talking about any fan base specifically, but student bodies in general are getting dumber.
Yes.
Like I just, and I know this thing has been going on for a long time, but
the fact of college kids, but college kids might be getting dumber.
They're adults. I don't really care. The fact of the matter is, you have Illinois students chanting NIT. That's literally like how dumb it is when you have student bodies chanting overrated for a top 5 to 10 team.
You're undermining your achievement. Yeah, my dad has the same problem with that.
It's called lack of IQ.
Yeah, anyway. You're undermining your own achievement by telling somebody, "Hey, you're not good, but I just beat you." So, again, have fun. The women play next when?
Women play tomorrow, noon. And Peter Jock's Jockstrap. I heard Zach Edey's coming back. He has another year of eligibility, Doug?
I guess. I don't know.
I wasn't aware of that, but okay. If he's coming back, he's coming back. I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, Zach Edey is yeah, Zach Edey would be 35. I don't know. But we'll see after Tuesday about the NCAA tournament talk, because that's the most important game right now. You lose that game, the talk really dies down to almost nothing. So
it just becomes completely dependent on winning the conference tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, thank you, Doug. A couple things. I made a note here. I thought a big part of this game, it was 56-52 at one point, and you may remember the moment. Iowa gets a block defensively. The ball goes out of bounds. A replay, in my opinion, showed that it was likely off of Illinois. Coleman Hawkins ends up getting the ball late in the shot clock, gets bailed out. Cricky leaves his feet. Hawkins completely leans in, and I thought it was a horrendous call. Fran didn't like it, of course. Gets bailed out, gets the and one. Frankly, I know guys are getting away with it in the NBA. I thought that was a poor execution on that play by Hawkins and how he leaned and how he drew contact. But frankly, if I was an official, I'd be calling that an offensive foul. You're leaning into the defender more than the defender's coming into you. But anyways, final call on the phone line. We do have one person on hold. I appreciate Doug calling our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. But frankly, I'm hearing myself.
Lemansky, Cory.
Hey, Lemansky, how are you?
Oh, I'm going to take a view from this game 30,000 feet and ask you, how many teams have a better road record than the Hawkeyes?
How many teams have a better in the Big Ten?
In the Big Ten.
They've won. I have no idea, Lemansky.
And I had no idea either. So when I got so frustrated with this game because I thought we could get it, there's only two, Illinois and Purdue, and Illinois is 500 on the road. And of course, Purdue is the only Big Ten team with a winning road record 5-3. So if you take the 30,000 foot view, and I guess I'm a little more optimistic because my Cyclone friend that gives to Iowa State that has houses in Las Vegas and Los Angeles bet on the Hawks today. And I found that out and I said, "You're nuts. You haven't watched Illinois play." And he said, "No, it's worth the risk." And so I guess that statistic about the road record, the Big Ten, you can debate me and say, well, our freshmen are no longer freshmen. They've got a lot of minutes. But a great comment in the chat said, where would we be with our freshmen if they got more minutes early in the season? I thought it was the best comment in the chat I've seen all year, Cory.
Okay.
I don't know what you think of that statement in the chat, but if the younger players had more minutes early in the year, maybe that's where some of the wins could have come from.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I mean, when you say younger players, are you talking about the four freshmen?
Answer back any way you want to.
I mean, frankly, we saw. I was at that game in CHI over in Omaha against Creighton, and I'd have to go back and look at the box score, but Dembele played a lot in that game. Freeman was really good in that game. Harding played a lot. I remember talking about this in December, Lemansky, that it's amazing how much trust Fran was putting in four true freshmen. So, I mean, that's what I'd say. You got a second-year guy in Josh Dix who scored 20 points tonight. He's our RTI Threads player of the game on 15 attempts. They've got a young nucleus. I know that DeSante Bowen's not playing much right now, but those four freshmen plus Josh Dix, Price Sanford's not giving you a ton. He gave him 4 minutes tonight after he went a stretch where he went playing. Brock Harding's giving you 7. Brock Harding's got to get better on the defensive end. He's going to struggle. He's going to have to figure out a way to account for his lack of size moving forward in his career. And I think that's the main reason why a lot of teams didn't pursue him during recruiting. And we knew that heading in. But if he's going to be the future at point guard, he's got to figure out a way to account for that. Because you look at him guarding a guy like Terrence Shannon, it's just a complete mismatch. And Price will figure it out. I have no doubt Price will figure it out. Owen Freeman will get better in the post defending without fouling. He did a pretty good job of that today, even though he had Dane Danger, Dane Danger is not the most skilled guy, but he is a physical post. So I don't know that I would agree with the statement that if they had played the younger guys sooner or more, that would have made much of a difference. I thought they played him a lot.
I'm not taking a shot at Fran either when I say that. It's an interesting comment to run through the brain because that's their strength by far. Dougie has defended Fran McCaffrey and take a few bullets once in a while in the chat. And it's obvious to me, and it's just my opinion. Maybe I don't know crap, Cory, but I watched them play the Badgers and watched that team play. But it's obvious to me, we all started out that maybe we could hold our own, the Big Ten shooting the three. Price Sanford would be the star, and rightfully so. Tony Perkins, he does so many things at a guard, his rebounding, his physical play. But it's obvious to me Fran has decided that the Hawks can't. They're in the bottom third of the Big Ten in shooting threes, and he's kind of veered the ship into this mid-range game that gives us a chance because we don't shoot well from the three. And I applaud Fran McCaffrey for this change of tactics, and that's why Josh Dix is on the floor all the time. Your opinion of my comments?
I would agree. I think, and one thing about, not to go to something else, but I saw somebody in the chat. The one thing about Fran McCaffrey, all right, I see a lot of criticism about Fran tonight, as always, about the defense. The three-point shot, as you brought out, Lemansky, is something that Fran has, I think, for good reason, adjusted his attack. I mean, it's clear that they have made a concerted effort to take less threes and to shoot more in the mid-range. And that's credit to Fran, even though that's not making some massive adjustment on the defensive end. Theoretically, that helps your defense because you're potentially going to have less scoring droughts. Now, they've had scoring droughts this year that have cost them, but they're not as dependent on the three-point shot, and that's going to help them kind of cover over the deficiencies they have on the defensive end, if that makes sense.
I'd be less optimistic if they got blown out today on the road against what I deem the best chance for a Big Ten team to go the farthest. I'll hang up and listen, but this team is coming, and I like our younger players immensely, and it's too bad we didn't have just one more big to help Owen because we'd be tough. Have a good show.
Thanks, Lemansky. Appreciate the phone call, sir. And absolutely, Mark in the chat, one game at a time, still a path to the tournament. Absolutely, and there's going to be a path to the tournament until you get to the conference tournament. If you lose in the conference tournament and your resume is not good enough, obviously there's no path. But I agree. I said at the outset, I think they got to win 3 straight to feel good about their chances on Selection Sunday without winning at least 3 games in the conference tournament. They go 2-1. I think you probably got to win 3. Now, a couple of our callers earlier that followed, and like Tony called in earlier about the net rankings, talked about, potentially you go 2-1 and you win 2 games in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe that gets you in, but boy, I'll be sweating. I'll probably be sweating on Selection Sunday either way, barring a total collapse where they're just completely out of it. But that's what I would say. So appreciate the everybody in the chat here. David Fran said he should have played Logi more in the second half. Well, that doesn't surprise me. In retrospect, I think you look at the box score and you say, hey, he played a little over 6.5 minutes, and I didn't think he gave him bad minutes, especially with the athleticism. Like I would have thought, even though Logi struggles to defend without fouling, he's a better matchup against Coleman Hawkins than Ben Krikke is. And I know you're not going to start Logi in a game like this, but I would have really utilized him, especially when you're on man-to-man against Coleman Hawkins. Ben Krikke can't guard from the perimeter, especially not an athletic long forward. All right, couple things before we log off here. Last call on the phone line, 515-635-1601, as we discuss Iowa's 95-85 victory Iowa's 95-85 loss at Illinois. We wish it was a victory. Our RTI Threads player of the game, Josh Dix, with 20 big ones, 9 of 15 from the field for the Council Bluffs native. He is really excelling in the mid-range right now, and part of that really young nucleus that, regardless of what happens the rest of this year, will pay big dividends, hopefully next season. As you add more pieces, hopefully you add something in the transfer portal, but he's our RTI Threads player of the game tonight. And our RTI Threads Iowa baseball site is up and live. Our friends over in North Sioux City over at iowabaseballswarm.com. Check out the team, Iowa Baseball Team NIL apparel. You can also check the official merchandise of Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer, football stars of the current, present, and future over at rtithreads.com. Also Cooper DeJean as he gets prepped for the draft, cd3lacesup.com. So again, 3 websites to remember. They're all in the description. cd3lacesup.com, rtithreads.com, and iowabaseballswarm.com. Also want to take a moment to thank Iowa Smokehouse. As always, they're with us through basketball season for both the men and the women. They'll be back with us tomorrow for our recap of Iowa, hopefully a win against Illinois for the women in Carver. Tasting is believing with their meat sticks, their jerky. Everything's awesome. Use the code Hawkeyes at iowasmokehouse.com for 15% off your order. Mark, appreciate the donation, Mark, just a second ago by way of Venmo. Thank you, Mark. Very much appreciated, and thank you for supporting the show. Thank you to everybody. If I've missed a donation, I try to give a shout out to all the donations that we don't get as many as we'd like, but I appreciate everyone, folks, because believe me, the season is long. And we're heading into an off season where we're not going to have as many live shows and streams. We appreciate all our sponsors. I appreciate all the donations. So certainly not complaining. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to everybody who's donated by us. I almost said Snapchat, by Super Chat or one of our main platforms over there on Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. All much appreciated. All right. So the next men's game is Tuesday. It's a must win, in my opinion. At home against the Nittany Lions, 2:27 at 8 p.m. That's Tuesday, February 27th at 8 p.m. Central Time over on the Big Ten Network. The women will be in action tomorrow against Illinois. It's Sunday against Illinois, noon p.m. Noon p.m., is that a term? 12 p.m. Central Time on Fox Sports 1. The 4th-ranked Hawks will try to bounce back after a disappointing road loss at Indiana. Check out our merchandise. It's in our description. You can check out the link to our Spread Shop store. Also, please hit the like button on your way out, folks. Again, all your contributions and support of our sponsors is much appreciated. The Hawkeyes falling today on the road at Illinois. Final score 95-85. We'll see you back tomorrow talking Iowa women's hoops. Have a great Saturday.